Welcome back to the Coffee Hour. I'm Andy Bates.
I'm Sarah Gulseth.
It is Monday, financial February 24th. I think.
Wow.
Did you like that?
That was good.
We're about to get smarter in the studio.
I know. I'm really excited. I'm going to be smarter after 12 minutes is over, and I'm looking forward to it.
Joining us in studio this morning, Mark Cannon, CFO and Senior Vice President of Finance and Administration for the LCMS Foundation. Mark, thanks so much for joining us in studio this morning.
Glad to be here. This is really cool.
This is really fun.
This is really cool.
Tell us, what are the duties of the Senior Vice President of Finance and Administration of the LCMS Foundation and CFO?
You know, I feel like you're almost making fun of that title there, Andy.
I am not, but I did learn what CFO stands for. All this time I thought it was Chief Fun Officer.
Well, you could be Chief Fun Officer.
Sort of. You know, actually it's fun right now, guys, because the economy's good. But what a CFO does is worries about money, right? Do we have enough? Just like at home. Do we have enough? And so we're always planning. The foundation where I work is pretty blessed, and most organizations are right now. But a CFO mostly worries about, do we have enough money, and tries to be that voice for planning and sort of, you know, we want to stay on budget. Mm-hmm. And so you want a team, but you need a spreadsheet person like myself around to kind of keep things under control.
Yeah. I'm very happy that God has blessed certain people with these skill sets, because I am not one of those people. I'm married to one of those people, and you are one of those people that love numbers and spreadsheets and money and all of that. Well, money in a good way.
I think so. I think it's true.
And
Proper use of money.
You know, I think for these roles, again, it's right now when you can say we can add some people maybe in our work, or maybe we can all take a vacation, or maybe you see more donations happening for capital campaigns. A lot of churches are doing capital campaigns right now. Yeah. So yeah, when you're in that role, often it's either really stressful and it's really hard, or maybe you have to decide how you're going to spend those funds that you have.
Sure. How did you end up in this role? What prepared you for this work to be CFO?
You know, yeah, I mean, it's one of those things you don't know when you're young what you're going to be, but I knew I liked numbers, and I knew I kind of liked economics is what I majored in college, you know, so I didn't really plan. See, and there again, you know, accounting and economics, people sort of tease, but if you truly find it interesting,
it's cool though.
I think it's kind of how the world really works in terms of what's going to happen in the future, you know, business-wise, right? So, but I did a lot of work in accounting and in banking all my whole career, and didn't really know as much about the LCMS Foundation, but it's one of those where you find the right place to be, and then it doesn't even feel like work.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Doesn't even feel like work. All right, so tell us about this recent competition that you participated in. First of all, what is this competition? I had never heard of it before. Yeah,
you know, the St. Louis Post-Dispatch, you know, which I subscribe to, that's probably an advantage in the competition, has an annual contest for those spreadsheet people to try to estimate where the market's going to go, right? So they had 4 different numbers that they want their audience to predict. So it was GDP growth, which is how fast the economy is growing. Mm-hmm. It's inflation, how fast prices are growing. It's unemployment percentage, what percent of people aren't working, and stock market growth. And so honestly, if you win the contest, there's a lot of luck involved, right? Because you don't know where things are going to go. But you know, we kind of say it's a little bit like a golfer. If they get a hole-in-one, it goes in the cup. They probably played a lot of golf, and they're really ready. But yeah, there's a lot of luck involved in that for sure. But it was fun. It was neat to see how that turned out. And it's an annual contest they do at the Post-Dispatch.
What prompted you to enter? Was this the first time you had entered?
I think the second. And one of the people on my team, you know, we at the foundation where I work here at the church, we do 2 things for the church. We help donors to think about their estate plan and how they can be generous when they pass away and support their church or ministries like KFUO. And we help ministries to invest and think about how to be long-term thinking and maybe use funds that they have toward long-term stewardship. So what prompted it was we have one person who just talks to ministries about investing, and he every year says, hey, you guys should invest it to the team at the foundation. You guys should enter this contest. And so he always does, and so it was sort of last minute that way.
So how much research, like what did you actually have to do to actually enter the contest? I mean, someone like me, I just throw out some numbers and hope for the best, but I wouldn't actually know what I'm doing. You, I'm assuming, knew,
I
really
can't even guess how many jelly beans are in the jar.
Right, I know, but you, I mean, you know what you're doing with this.
Yeah, it's still a guess though. You know, it's like guessing anything else. I mean, it's a number, but you know, in ways, if you're into it, you're researching constantly. You're always reading about it and thinking about it and waiting for the chance to, you know, get lucky and maybe get it right. But you're always researching and paying attention to where markets are going. Get an opinion, you know. But it's important, like in our work, that the last thing we want to do is try to predict markets. We really don't. We try to hire professionals for that. So we don't, necessarily try to say, is Apple overpriced or not? I may have an opinion, but it's too hard to beat the pros. And so, but yeah, you're always preparing and thinking about it. And when this is just a contest. It's just a chance to try to test your skills. And there were maybe 80 people that entered locally.
Wow.
And there's some I didn't know around town.
Yeah.
So it's nice to get those emails or a message on Facebook that says congratulations.
Yeah.
From peers.
Yeah. What other types of professionals were you up against in this competition? What were you ready? Like, did you go in all fired up and ready to go?
Yeah. It was people from the banking and investment industry, really, people that follow financial markets. And this is a good city for that. With Edward Jones, with the Federal Reserve here in St. Louis, Wells Fargo. It's a hub for financial management. So there's a lot of stiff competition out there. But again, there's a lot of good fortune in how things actually turn out to actually win that. It is kind of like the jelly beans in some ways. You look and you have a gut feeling.
So how did you place in this competition? You won.
I did. For calendar 2019, I took first place.
Yeah.
Postage back.
Round of
I know.
applause.
I feel like we need a mascot.
I know. Did you get a T-shirt or something?
I did.
Oh, you did?
I did.
That is awesome.
Sweet. Do you wear it proudly?
Well, the T-shirt says Stanley and Gloria, though. I got it from the Post-Dispatch, and it was sort of a couple things for
that's
St. Louis. They had Stanley and Gloria,
Yeah.
and a puzzle, and one more thing.
That is so great. It's so St. Louis, too.
That is, for the folks outside of St. Louis, it probably...
Like, what are you even talking about
doesn't
right
make
now?
much sense.
True.
So, first of all, very proud to have, the
champion.
a champion. And if we had a mascot, what would it be like when we compete in this? When you compete each year?
You could say it could be like Warren Buffett, maybe like an investor.
How can now that we have a champion in the house? I mean, we've always had a champion in the house, but how can you use these skills, if I might even say mad skills, how can they be used in service to the church as well? You talked about this a little bit
Definitely.
already, but how do you use these skills to serve the church?
Definitely. The foundation where I work is a great example of that, Andy. There's 54 people at the foundation. It's always a team effort. And so when these things happen, it's great to get a little bit of attention. But what we do is try to encourage church members to think about how blessed they are, and a lot of our members are, and how they might use those blessings to benefit ministry in the future. And so there's really two things that we do at the foundation where I work that really work this way. One is to make an estate gift. We've got 20 gift planners around the country, all the way from California all the way to the East Coast, that can talk locally, face to face with church members about this situation. It's very sensitive information about where you are, but it makes sense. People want to do it; they never get around to it. And then, secondly, we can help ministries to invest. When a congregation gets a large gift, or maybe they've had monies in the bank forever, and they've been getting 1% on that, they might think about being longer term with that. So we can support those two areas. And, when it comes to fundraising, doing direct giving and campaigns, as you guys know, that's an important part. What they call planned giving, where you're thinking about investing and thinking about the future, and maybe even gifts that'll happen 25 years after you have this conversation, it's a growing part of fundraising. So that's what we focus on. And ideally, markets stay good. There's going to be ups and downs, but of course there will be bad years, and there will be bad, maybe even decades. But over that 10, 20, 30-year window, hopefully, the Dow is at 1 million. Some predict I think Warren Buffett's predicted by the year 2100, the Dow will be past 1 million.
Wow. I don't actually know what that means.
So you freely admitted it. So I've just sat here.
I pretend I know what it means, but I really don't.
Stock markets are up, and people are building wealth for retirement. And they're building wealth that they can use to fund ministries and to fund charities.
Yeah. So do you have encouragement for people? Maybe they read this story, didn't know anything, don't follow stock markets, don't follow things, but read this story because now you're a famous Lutheran, and are now inspired to pay more attention to their investments, to their finances. What is your encouragement for people who want to start paying attention to these things, like the first step of doing that?
Yeah, people do, and they should. And I would just say it's just common sense. It's slow and steady wins the race. If you're thinking about retirement, be realistic. We all might need to work longer than maybe 2 generations ago, but we're probably going to live longer, right? So that might be okay, but save now. Save a little, be diversified, meaning have a lot of different smaller investments instead of 1 or 2 big investments in one company. And and try to find low fees and really just talk to friends and peers that are investing. But definitely of course, the first thing to do is really try to pay off some debt and work on that too, right, for young people also.
But not being paranoid about it and always checking it. This came out in the article too about your personality too. You're not constantly checking it like every minute and making changes every minute either, right?
True. And that's to each investor their own. And you should say that when it comes to any kind of investing, it's up to the goals of the individual. But the typical advice you'll hear a lot is to think about your time horizon for investing. When do you need the money? And the longer out in time, the more in the future it is, the more you can invest aggressively in stocks instead of just bank accounts. And also your willingness to accept risk and look at a statement that goes from 100,000 down to 70,000 in your 401k. And so that the ability to do that. But yeah, not looking at it as often is probably healthier instead of looking every day, and sort of saying, look, I look once a quarter, Saturday mornings, the first Saturday of the quarter, right? A spreadsheet out there. But be long-term thinking about it. And again, you're going to have ups and downs, but you're probably going to see that works over the long term.
Very good. Well, we only have a few seconds left, but in preparation, are you thinking next year's competition as well? Are you training now? Hitting the gym hard?
You know what? No, actually, it's too late. I didn't do it in December of 2019, so I'm not in the 2020 competition, unfortunately.
Next year.
Right.
Oh, man.
No repeat, but that's okay.
That's okay. There's the following year. But we are proud of you. Thank you.
True.
Thank you so much for sharing this story with us, and also for just the work that you do to help us to be wise with the investments as well here at the Lutheran Church Missouri Synod, the LCMS Foundation. Thanks so much. Mark Cannon, Senior Vice President of Finance and Administration, LCMS Foundation. Thanks for being our guest.
Thanks a lot.
I'm Andy Bates.
I'm Sarah Golseth.
The Coffee Hour with Andy and Sarah is a production of KFUO. To support the Coffee Hour and KFUO Radio, visit KFUO.org. You can also text KFUO to 41444 or send an email to gifts@KFUO.org. And you can call us at 800-844-0524. KFUO. Christ for you, anytime, anywhere.